Hi, everybody. Welcome. I just want to welcome everyone. My name is Diane Manuel, and this is Urban Wealth Management Smart Women Savvy Money monthly webinar. We host these lifestyle and financial webinars every single month on the second Tuesday of every month except December, because I'm sure you want to take a break during that time. So I do want to take this opportunity to say hello and thank you for coming back to all of our friends who have participated in these webinars before. And if you're new to us, a special shout out. Thank you for taking the time today to join us and hear about optimism. It'll be a great webinar. It'll be super fast, only half an hour, and you're going to walk away with so much information. So thank you for taking the time and joining Urban Wealth Management. So before I get going, I'd like to take a second and give you a little bit of background on Urban Wealth Management. We are a full-service financial advisory firm, and we do financial planning, we do manage assets, we do insurance, we do retirement planning, and we provide services to nonprofit and foundations. So you'll see this all on our website, and please feel free to peruse. We take a lot of time and effort to put really great content and information on our website. So, and we just actually redid it, so please take the opportunity to peruse through it and get some information. From a personal standpoint, I'd like to share with you that I'm absolutely committed to creating a movement of women who are comfortable and confident about creating a path for financial freedom and maintaining their wealth. And I know we all can do it, and I really sincerely believe there has to be a movement, and we all have to be involved in that. We can't do it alone. So along that lines, I'd like to share with you some of the events that are upcoming with Urban Wealth Management. Like I said, we have so much going on. So if you go to our website, you will see the events tab. Click on there. We have a ton of stuff, and this is today, so we'll get started on that really soon. However, I'd like to point out my colleague Dorinda King is hosting a webinar next Wednesday, and it's really about caring for yourself and caring for your loved ones. That's so important, and she's going to give you in a half an hour some really handy tips and tools and strategies to take care of that. And then the following Wednesday, I'm hosting a master class. It's a group of classes about investing in yourself. And this particular class will review your financial roadmap and how to stay on track and what you need to do that. That'll be from 6 to 7, so that'll be in the evening, West Coast time. We're in LA. And then finally, there is a month from now, our next webinar with Wendy Gladney. I muted everyone. Hold on just a second. Oh, yeah, I think everyone is muted. Okay. I'm sorry, I heard some noise. So next Thursday, a month from now, on April 11th, we're going to have a webinar with our dear friend Wendy Gladney Dean, and she's going to talk about finding your greatness. So I really invite you guys to go to our website and sign up for any or all of these. Most importantly, we're hosting a Women's Summit on Saturday, May 11th, and the theme is Becoming. Yes, we ripped off Michelle Obama because she's brilliant. However, this day will be full of speakers and workshops, all with the intention of helping you become your best selves. So watch for that email. Go to our website. We should have that registration link up either tomorrow or Monday, and everyone will get an email inviting you to join us on that Saturday. There is an early bird registration, and that'll be good through April 30th, so we really want you guys to pop in and be with us that day. It's going to be super, super fun. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to our speaker, Haley Barrows, and I'm going to unmute her. Can you hear me, Haley?
Hey, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to turn the computer over to Haley, and in the meantime, I'm going to introduce you to her because she's just really wonderful. So Haley is a project specialist and research coordinator at the Performance Science Institute at the USC Marshall School of Business. Haley earned a BA in psychology from Pomona College, where she conducted research on individual differences. Haley is also a former NCAA soccer and lacrosse player, and she is super passionate about understanding and promoting the determinants of physical and mental health. Outside of work, Haley is an avid rec league soccer player, so don't get in her way, and a regular hiker in the Santa Monica Mountains. So if you ever run across her, just say hello. So Haley, I think you're on, and you can go ahead.
Okay, great. And you can see my screen okay?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Haley Barrows. Like Diane said, I'm from the Performance Science Institute at the University of Southern California. So what we do at the Performance Science Institute is we're training the mind for high performance in any field. So we're doing that through gathering and collecting data on masterful mind function. So we work with a lot of elite performers ranging from reconnaissance Marines down at Camp Pendleton to elite athletes to world-class violinists. And we've noticed a theme between all of them. While they're all working to master their craft, they also all spend time on readying their minds for all the facets of high performance, both the successes and maybe more importantly, the challenges that come with high performance. The cool thing about performance is that we all have a universal need for it. We all have to perform, whether that's at work, it's at home as a spouse or as a mother or father. So this is something that you all can really tap into as well. The analogy that we like to use at the Institute is if you were training for a marathon in a month, what would you do to train? Probably go for a run, right? But what are you going to do when you experience challenges in the future? Which, newsflash, we're all going to face challenges, so this is very relevant. A lot of you may be doing some mindset training, but it's not super common. So there are actually a lot of tools that science supports as being helpful for getting through challenges and having powerful coping mechanisms. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about optimism, my favorite subject. So there are a lot of benefits to optimism. As a trait, it predicts improved outcomes in chronic illness, life transitions such as new jobs, moving, parenthood, anything you can think of. Also, it predicts perseverance, popularity, longevity, this is a long list, coping, problem solving, academic success, athletic achievement, and general happiness. And the really cool thing about optimism is that it's actually independent of intelligence, academic achievement, wealth, or other life advantages. So this isn't something you have to wait until life gets good to start practicing. It's something that optimism is actually a coping strategy, so you can use it at any time in your life. Probably the best day to start practicing was yesterday, but today is the second best day, so let's get into it. So when I started working at the PSI, we started talking a lot about optimism, and I was kind of thinking, like, all right, this is a load of crap, sorry for lack of a better word. I didn't really believe it because I had always associated optimism with being unrealistic. And so I don't know if any of you think this, but when I hear optimism, these are the things I originally thought it was associated with. Always seeing the bright side of things, rose-colored glasses, seeing the glass half full, positivity, happiness, and the big hitter, the one I always hear, is denial, which couldn't be further from the truth. So what optimism is not sitting in your house while it's burning down and saying, oh, great, everything's awesome. That's what denial is. Optimism is the belief that actions in your future will lead to better outcomes in the future, regardless of circumstance. So it's really seeing that you have the power. I'm not saying you're manifesting your destiny or anything like that, but that you have the power in the controllables of the situation to make a better future for yourself, regardless of what circumstance you're in. So optimism is a little bit more like this. Wakeboarding through a flood. It's not all great, but you find the positives in the situation and move through it. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you all a little bit today about some of the myths around optimism. I know I touched on this a little bit earlier, but it'll help you understand how this construct actually works and how you can implement it into your lives. So the first myth that you always hear about is that optimists always see the glass half full, which is actually not completely true, because optimists actually pay more attention to negative information than people who are low in optimism or pessimists. So don't worry about this graph too much, but this study that I'm showing you is they brought in a bunch of students to a university health center and had them read about different health behaviors that they participated in. So for this example, let's use spending time out in the sun, because I'm sure we've all done it. I don't follow any of the rules for it, but yeah, so spending time in the sun. So look on the bottom and you'll see that there's health-related optimism on that bottom line. So if you look at the people who ranked high in optimism for health, you can see that based on that risk line, they're actually spending more time reading about the risks associated with sitting out in the sun, like getting a sunburn, skin cancer, whatever it is. They spend more time in minutes reading about those risks versus the benefits associated with it, which is maybe you feel good about yourself or you're getting a little vitamin D. So they're spending more time doing that, and they're also spending way more time reading about the risks than people who rank low in optimism. So again, don't worry about the graph too much, but just know that they're spending more time reading about the risks than pessimists, and they're also spending more time reading about the risks and the benefits. So another example of that is when I was back in my middle school, I had a sneaky little habit of every time I would do that on a test, I had the stash and dash habit where I would just shove the midterm into my binder and not look at any of the answers I got wrong. And then just go out to recess, because if I didn't look at what I got wrong, I didn't do poorly on the test, and I do fine the next time. The more optimistic approach probably would have been to actually look through what I got wrong on the test so that I could do better on the final. And that's really what optimism is. It's taking in information and learning about your surroundings and the relevant information so that you can improve your future. Okay, so the second myth, it's kind of related, but it's that optimists live in denial. My friends always tell me that people tell them that they're too optimistic, and I think it's a misinterpretation of what the word actually means. So this is a little bit similar of a study, but they brought in 57 breast cancer patients before they were about to have a very serious surgery. And so before these patients came in, they surveyed them on how optimistic they were. And then they tracked them, I think it was 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months after the surgery, just to see how they were coping with getting through surgery and recovering. And they found that up to 12 months after the surgery, people who ranked higher in optimism were more likely to accept the reality of their diagnosis. They reported lower levels of denial, and they actually expressed lower psychological distress. And then this isn't in this study, but generally there is research that backs up that people who have similar diagnoses or worse have actually gotten out of the hospital faster if they rank higher in optimism. And it's going back to that original point that you pay attention to the potentially negative information or what's a risk or serious things that you need to pay attention to so that you can improve your future. So most likely the optimists were paying more attention to their treatment plans, what they had to do in order to get out of the hospital quicker. Okay, so the third myth is that optimists lose their competitive edge. I used to work in tech, and the number of founders that I heard that would brag about being pessimists was insane. I don't think they understood what it meant. They thought that being optimistic was too positive and that they would miss something very important to founding their company. But actually, it's interesting. Olympians consistently rank optimism as one of their character traits, and it's actually correlated with entrepreneurial success. So in this study, they found that they had people come in and take a test. There were some solvable problems on the test, and there were some unsolvable problems on the test. And they found that people who ranked higher in optimism were more likely to realize the unsolvable problems were unsolvable and move on to the rest of the test. The optimists actually quit on average up to 4 minutes sooner than their pessimistic counterparts, which that's a big time difference if you're on a test. And just kind of going along with that, optimism is actually causally associated with increased pain tolerance. And we never say causally in science, so that's actually a pretty big deal. And this isn't in the study, but my take on that is that if you use optimism as a coping mechanism, you're able to tolerate more pain because you're using whatever might be relevant to that situation to get through it. So maybe you can take more, if it's a mental challenge, you can take more of that to get through a bad situation. So the really cool thing about optimism, this is maybe my favorite part, is that you can actually increase optimism. And so research supports that imagining your best possible self compared to just imagining the daily activities you have to participate in, it actually leads to a significantly larger increase in optimism, which is awesome. This is great news for all of us. So I'm going to teach you how to complete a best possible self journal. So this is just a mock-up of one. This is actually something we do with our students in our class, The Science of Peak Performance. So for 2 weeks, we have our students create a best possible self journal. And so each day what we have them do, at the end of the day, we have them write down what their best possible self would be the next day. What do they want to get done? What's the intention around it going to be? And the key to this is it's your best possible self. It's not saying, I'm going to go run a marathon tomorrow and I'm going to crush it. If you're not training already, that's probably a little bit unrealistic. So think about things that you want to get done. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be something as simple as, this is just a mock-up one, but as simple as you are looking forward to eating lunch outside. Or you want to have a healthy lunch, or I put in my rec league soccer. So you write down the task. So maybe at 7:30 in my best possible self, I would be waking up and practicing mindfulness for a couple minutes. And during that exercise, I want to feel calm, I want to feel alert, and I want to feel perceptive. At rec league soccer, I want to feel focused, I want to feel creative, relaxed, and social, and just in the moment with my friends. And then at the end of the day, what you do is you go back in and you write the results. Like, did you accomplish your morning mindfulness? No, maybe I woke up late, so you didn't get that done. But great, in my meeting with my boss, I was focused and I was collaborative, so I followed through on that intention. And so you're not going to get everything done probably on the list, and that's not a big deal. This is not to judge yourself. Always be kind to yourself. But by writing this down, you're probably going to accomplish more than you might have by not writing it down. Actually, research shows that writing things down helps. But it also helps you be intentional about your day. And so just practice this every day. You chip away at it, and little by little, you'll build up an optimistic mindset. So actually, I think that's it. I kind of cruised through that. But are there questions from anyone?
So I do have a question.
Yeah.
And if there's other people that have questions, please drop them into the chat box. So my question to you, Haley, is what happens when it happens to all of us, and I call it getting into the swamp or this negative space, and a friend of mine used to say she was in a pit in India, and so she was like, I can't get out of it. So what are some strategies that we all can use when we feel we get stuck and we don't feel that we can move forward or put what you've talked about, this optimistic spin on our lives, which is imagining our best selves? What would that look like? What can we do?
Yeah, so my first thing that I want to say up front is if you're really in a bad place, there's always options to get help, and definitely do that. I'm more talking about if you're feeling a little negative, you're already doing okay. What helps for me, at least, is when I'm feeling stuck or I'm just seeing things in a negative light, the first thing to getting out of that headspace is realizing I'm in that headspace. So I'm sitting here, it's 1:20 p.m. Maybe, I mean, I'm not right now because I'm having fun with you guys, but let's say I was post-lunch, I still have 5 hours left of work. Realizing that I feel frustrated, kind of that mindfulness component is a big part of it, but then thinking about, okay, well, I still have X hours left in my workday. What's one thing I really want to knock out while I'm here? And what's my intention around that going to be? So maybe it's midterms right now, so I have a lot of grading I need to do. So providing feedback. I want to be attentive when I'm giving feedback. And then maybe I have all that time left when I get home. So what do I want to accomplish when I get home? I want to go for a workout, and I want to have a healthy dinner. And those are things that I can knock off and have intention around, and they're not that big of tasks when you break it down. I think when you're in a negative headspace, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the negativity, but you can't eat the whole elephant at once. You got to chomp it up into little bites. And so just thinking about those little things that you can knock off on your list. And it'll actually, I think, once you start working on that best possible self-journal, that helps you break it down into manageable components. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. So maybe you can go back to the best possible self-journal.
Yeah, totally.
Because
and I can, if anyone wants copies.
We're going to send it to you. Yeah, we'll get a blank one and send that out with a replay so everyone can have this. I do a version of this every morning. I have mine sitting here somewhere. I'll show everybody. And here's mine. A lot of scribbles, and I can hardly see it by the end of the day. But so along that line, so you say to do this at the end of the day, correct? Mm-hmm. And for the next day, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long should we, I guess my question is, how long does it take for someone to feel optimistic? Mm-hmm. So, this is practice in creating a habit. Mm-hmm. And so, really, how long does it take to change the mindset?
I would say try it out. Try it out for like 2 weeks. The science around habits is actually not entirely sound, so the 21 days thing isn't true. Try it for
I'm going to own that.
And then see how you feel after that. I don't think it's the same for everyone, but I think it's not like you're suddenly going to, be a complete optimist. I think it's just you'll start to look forward to things and have a more positive outlook on your future, and follow through on more things too.
And maybe you could talk about, because you did mention it a little bit, the chances are that you won't accomplish most things on the list. Mm-hmm. And we talked about that a little bit. And maybe when you first start, you might accomplish nothing, I would suspect, mm-hmm. That you might go through a few days that, I haven't done anything. And, how, like you said, to be kind to yourself and not beat yourself up, and talk a little bit about that, about reasonable expectations.
Yep. I think that's step number one, is being kind to yourself. But so an example of this is we have one of our old students. She graduated a couple of years ago, but so she became a professional tennis player after college, and so she became injured. So her whole schedule changed from, going to practice, having the best possible self around performing on the court, to going into rehabilitating her injury. And so her best possible self might not be getting out on the tennis court every day and crushing it. It could be, this exercise 10 times for 5 minutes. It can be little things, but just thinking about, it's not the end of the world if you don't get to everything that you want to get to. But maybe there's a reason, first of all, that you're not getting to things. Maybe you're just feeling under the weather, or you're just not feeling productive, but what are the small wins in those days where you're feeling unproductive? So maybe it's getting outside for a walk. Like, that can be a win. And I definitely have that sometimes where I'm like, all right, today, if I get out for a half an hour walk, like, I crushed the day. Like, you just want to win the day.
And how does that work? I am sure it works, and because you have activities, but I'm sure it also works with relationships. Being kind to your spouse, not going off on your kids, mm-hmm. Picking up the phone and calling your parent or something like that. Does it work with those things too? Totally.
I think it's with the thing we tell our students is that when you have goals, so like maybe it's to be kinder to your spouse. That's an honorable goal, and it's great, and you should totally try to do that. It's tough to make that a tangible, or it's not tough to make it a tangible, but that itself is not a tangible. So how are you going to be kind to your spouse? Maybe it's that you realize you fly off the handle when they forgot to cook dinner or something. I don't know. Thinking about things that being mindful of ways in which you want to be more kind, and turning those into actionables. I think that's kind of the first step. But yeah, like calling your grandparents, maybe that's a big thing. So putting that in the list, that's something that's very easy to do, and if you put it down, then you're holding yourself accountable to it.
So someone asked a really good question. How to work with people or be around people, especially when they're family, who are downers or just are living in this negative space, who don't have the best possible self worksheet
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, it's just the world is seen through a negative prism.
Yeah.
How can we keep ourselves better? What are some strategies for that?
That's a great question, and one that I don't really have an exercise to. It's more just my personal take on it. Being in this space now, a lot of I go home and, like, my family doesn't practice this, which is totally normal. Most people don't. I think it can be easy once you start practicing these things to notice when people around you are not practicing them, or maybe they do see the world through a more negative lens. But just not judging them, as you're not judging yourself, try not to judge them, but being mindful that I think you're just going to become more mindful of it. I don't have great advice for specifically what to do besides realizing that you have to meet people where they're at, and not everyone's going to have the same outlook as you. But then also realizing that their outlook doesn't have to affect yours. Like, you can still maintain your optimistic mindset. And I mean, you can tell people about this exercise. I don't know how well that would come across. Like, oh, well, have you thought about trying to be an optimist? I don't think that will go over well with people. So just more being mindful of yourself and not letting it impact how you see the world.
So when you've talked to students and people that are athletes and non-athletes, just regular people,
yeah.
What's the strongest advice based on what you've seen people being able to implement and be successful and to either upgrade or change their perspective or worldview? Like, what would be your takeaway to, you know, always think about or write down? And you mentioned how important it is to write things down.
Mm-hmm.
What would be one of the biggest takeaways, you think?
You mean just more like broadly, or do you want
Yeah.
to?
Mm-hmm.
The thing I've noticed, because we work a lot with students, is I think people get in their own way when they're not kind to themselves. And I think, and I do this too, you need to cut yourself a break. You're not going to accomplish everything you want to accomplish, and that's okay. That's often the first step for people, is just like, you got it. Like, you're doing well, give yourself a break. And then I think once you realize that, you can start tackling pieces of this. We have a kind of a whole suite of tools that we teach our students, like a gratitude journal, optimism. We also teach personal philosophy. So I think all of those are important, but you have to be good with yourself in order to really move forward with any of this.
That's great. That's awesome. And it's one of my favorite things I tell my clients is to give yourself a break. You are where you are now, and that's okay. And the only place we can go is forward.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone, today for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Go on our website and look at all the upcoming webinars starting next week and the following week, and then again in April. And do watch for your email inviting you to our Women's Summit on, when is it? May 11th. It'll be in Culver City. It's going to be great. We've already locked down Dr. Lois Frankel, and she's a best-selling author of Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office, and she's publishing a new book in January that she is going to preview for us at the conference and give us a little coaching section, something along the lines of how to tell somebody to go to hell and have them enjoy the journey, or something along that line. So I think Lois is great, and we're looking forward to her being there. And we're going to have a stylist, and I'll be speaking, and Renee will be there, and some of my other colleagues will be there and speaking also. So I want to, along the line of what Haley said, I'd like to actually have each and every one of your give yourself a pat on the back for taking the half an hour today to join us, giving yourself a break, doing something different at work. So you deserve a standing ovation for investing in yourself. And absolutely understand that I am committing to helping all of you make the changes you want to make to create your best life. And these webinars are designed to do that. So I'm hopeful that we achieve that today. They're really designed to be enlightening, encouraging, entertaining, and uplifting, and I hope you've been able to walk away with some of that. I believe you can be your best person, and I want everyone to remember that I'm your biggest cheerleader. So go ahead and move forward, do whatever you need to do to start working on that path. And we're going to send the best possible self to you. We'll send a template like this, and then we'll send a blank one so you can copy them and write on it every day. And we'll talk to everyone next month. So thank you for joining us. And I know tomorrow's Friday, and then the weekend, so have a good one. And hopefully in LA it won't be rainy. So thanks, everybody. Take it easy. Appreciate you joining us.